Hello, my name is Susie Hobner, and this is my assistant Donatello. Come here, Donnie. Come here. He's a magical little being, a rescue, and he just turned 9. Little handsome boy. Um, so I decided to start a channel where I can talk about some of the things that people are very interested in. I don't have like a whole video recording setup, or I know it's okay to not have everything. And so I'm just doing this with my QuickTime movie recorder on my computer. No editing, no filters, none of that because, yeah, we don't need it, huh? But so a lot of people like to ask me questions about being a props master in the film industry, why I've left the film industry, how I fasted for 27 days, where am I going, what am I doing, because I've lived in the same house for 11 years here in Los Angeles, and very soon my husband and I are going to be relocating. And we're looking at moving to Alaska because we can purchase a piece of property and build on it without a lot of restrictions. And we're both looking to leave the film industry. My husband is a driver for the big trucks, and he works with art departments and production and grips. And I've had a really dreamy career. I was a set decorator for Beyonce's Renaissance album. I was a set decorator for Charlie Puth's Light Switch video. I was a production manager for the Discovery Shark Week for 2023, and I worked on some of 2024. I have gotten the opportunity to work with some incredible musicians and actors and actresses, Sherry O'Terry, um, Ringo Starr, Brooke Burke, just a whole slew of people, Don Johnson, Kate Hudson. I have had an incredible career. I've had amazing mentors. I worked under the legendary Bucky Moore, who was the props master for David Fincher for 10 years. He taught me everything I know about how to be a props master in the old school way. He's retired now. He's almost 80 years old. And I had the opportunity to work for him on the craziest show I have ever worked on, which was a co-production between a Chinese television show and an American production team. And it was insane. We worked in Vegas, and then we were flown out to a small island off the coast of Guam. And I've done a short film about it, and I've written a script that I think is pretty good. But it talks about the crazy time I had being a props master for that. So I've been really blessed. I've had an incredible amount of opportunities. I've had incredible people to learn from. I have been able to stay in this beautiful Spanish-style home in Los Angeles for very low rent for a long time. But recently, my family member was letting me know that they have to give this house to another family member and that I have to relocate. And this was during the strike. So I had been out of work for 8 months, and I had kind of been thinking about whether or not I even wanted to continue in the film industry because some days I just loved it. And then other days I didn't want to work 16 hours. I didn't want to work 20 hours with 4 hours of turnaround. I didn't want to lift a couch and move it across a room. I didn't want to have to carry 20 boxes of props from one set to another. And it was just a lot for me physically. Even as I became more well known in my own circles and could hire more people, it was a lot on me mentally and physically. And so basically at this point, I have decided to leave the industry because long term, I do not see myself being able to physically keep up anymore. I don't want to push myself that hard because my body, it doesn't do that well. Um, the Beyonce shoot is a great example. I worked 3.5 weeks. I worked 20-hour days most of the time. Some of them were 17-hour. I worked 7-day weeks, and I had tight turns, which means you get less than 12 hours between shifts. A lot of the tight turns were 6 hours, 5 hours, 4 hours between shifts. Our last day I had 2 hours. So I basically went home and showered, changed clothes, and went back. And there's a lot of things in the film industry that I don't agree with. And the push, 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 get this done in a short amount of time is a big one because over quarantine, I shot a feature film with my friends, and we worked 5-hour days, 6-hour days, and came out with an incredible product without having to kill ourselves or other people to do it. So I just have a lot of feelings about the film industry in general and about the toxic environment that it creates. And I think a lot of people agree. I mean, the bigger stars, they work on a film and then they take like months off because it's so difficult. And I would do that as well on big projects. I would work, 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 and then I would take a couple of weeks off or a month off. And I just think that with the strike happening and seeing everyone struggle, and it's already an industry that is really cutthroat and really tough, I just felt like I know that I'm at the height of my career. I know that I'm in a really good place with a lot of incredible connections, but I don't see my family. I don't get to spend time with my dogs. I don't get to be in my garden. I don't get to spend time with my husband unless we're working together. And I guess I'm choosing a simpler life where I get to be outside and I get to, sorry, that's Rosie. I get to hang out with my family and my friends, and I get to create a whole new life for myself with the skills that I have gotten from working in the film industry. I have Donnie, and I also have a giant Doberman. Her name is Rosie. But so that is why I'm leaving the film industry. I also had some really terrible experiences coming out of quarantine with getting paid on time from some of my bigger clients that I work for. And ironically enough, like some of my largest paychecks took the longest to get to me. And there's a lot of things that happen in the film industry that aren't quite legal. You don't really get the breaks. You don't get paid on time a lot of times. A lot of times they want to put you as a contractor, but you're an employee. And I chose to work non-union because union is very, very expensive. It is about $7,000 to become a props master in the props union. And I worked a lot of union jobs without being union, and I was never able to get enough days to become union. But even if I had, I would have had to go in as a props assist and not a props master, and I wasn't really into that idea in general. But also I worked as a set decorator, I worked as a shopper, I worked as a bunch of things, and in the union you have to pay $6,000 to be a shopper, $7,000 to be a set decorator, in addition to the money you already paid to be a props master. So all the money I would have made would have just gone back into becoming a union version of those things. There was no flexibility between positions. So I made the decision for myself that I wasn't going to spend my money like that because it just didn't make any sense to me. In addition, I don't actually feel like the union was doing that well for the people it represents, because the state of California, if you get missed lunch or missed breaks, you get like $20. But the union had negotiated like $13. or $7, or it was just like half of what the state of California had negotiated. So I don't really believe. Oh, in addition, this really gets me. So I didn't make any overtime working as a set decorator on the Beyonce videos because the union had negotiated flat rate for all of the upper level art department positions on music videos. So myself, the art director, the production designer, who were working the most amount of hours, had flat day rates for our position. No overtime. So I would have made more as a shopper or a PA, an RPA, than I did as a set decorator. But I personally wanted that title on record with the union and with the project, that I was the set decorator and that I had that responsibility, and it's a great honor. But I definitely, when I was submitting my final information, had to make the choice. Do I want to just list myself as a PA so I can make a couple thousand extra dollars? And I really had to think about that choice. And, you kind of question yourself, is that money worth it, or is the title worth it? So this just isn't right. None of that's right. So I don't really feel like the union is doing a good job negotiating for upper level art department. I don't know what's going on with that. Personally, I would think the union would be fighting for overtime for people who are working the most, especially considering the people at the top, the producers, are making an insane amount of money, and the artists are making an insane amount of money. And if you look at the trickle down of that and the amount that's going to the people who are on the ground making the artistry real, it's really not close. They're like making $100,000, and then someone's making $20,000 or $30,000, and then someone else is making $4,000, and they're all working the same amount of time. And I understand like the difference between expertise and experience and all of that, but like I've worked in the industry 13 years and I'm making a flat rate, and I'm talking to a producer who's making a percentage of the project. And that's just, he's making hand over fist. And so I don't know. I just feel really strange about the industry in general. I was also like one of very few female props masters for the majority of my career. There's only one that I have known for a long time, who identifies solely as the props master, and her name is Yo-Yo, and she's fabulous. But it's a male-dominated industry in general. I worked on the American Girl YouTube channel, and that was all female crew. And that was the first time I'd ever had that. But I can count on one hand the number of times I've worked for female directors, which is, and then also it's split pretty much working with female and male production designers. So that's the other thing, is like sometimes I'll be on set and I would be one of the only women who was on the crew. And that can kind of be just, I don't know. I mean, it's all right, but it's not ideal. I have recently started teaching, and it's a female-dominated industry, and I'm really enjoying the feminine energy that I'm around, and it's a lot more chill and laid back and understanding, and not so like hard-driven, have to have the answers. It's more like intuitive and emotional and kind of accepting of neurodivergence, because in something I've noticed in male-dominated workplaces is there's not really a lot of room for neurodivergence, and getting to a solution in a different way isn't necessarily accepted if your boss doesn't see it like that. So that's something else I felt in the film industry a lot. But I work for a lot of different people, and every single environment is really different. But I'm kind of happy to be leaving, just because I'm really tired of putting up with the constant having to figure out the next job, having to figure out how to get paid properly. Did this person, what does the director want versus what does the artist want versus who's making the decisions for these budgets at the top and how can I get what the resources we actually need? And it's made me an incredible negotiator. Um, and I'm very, very good at time management as to what I can get done in a day. But I was also, when I first started, I just try to get as much done as I could. I try to fulfill everyone's expectations. And so um, there's a lot of people in the industry that have huge asks, absolutely huge asks, and they have no idea what they're asking for. And as someone who worked in the art department and for props, when someone is asking you for a stunt set of sabers and they need it tomorrow, like you have to figure out if the prop house even has it because you can't make a stunt set of sabers overnight. You need weeks to do the molds for that. And it's just a whole thing where people just think, oh, I can ask for this right away. And they think they can get it. They think they can get it for a low price. And I I think that when you work with more seasoned directors, it's really so much easier because they understand what they're asking for or what's possible. And a lot of really great young directors who are more fluid, they don't want to ask for too much. I've seen that in some of the Snapchat jobs that I worked at. I felt like those directors were so much more understanding and chill. But I just think I'm over it. And it's kind of sad saying goodbye to a place and a career that I really found who I was as a person, and I really made a lot of incredible art with my friends. And I'm very, very happy with the mark I've left and what I've experienced. I feel very proud of myself, but I do feel like for me, I think there's always the possibility of doing a project here and there. There's always the possibility of if someone calls me, maybe I'll come out and do it. But at this point, I just feel like it's time to move on and create a life that's more sustainable for myself and for my family because I have 2 dogs and a husband, and we want to be in nature. We want to build our own house. We don't want to have to slave away and worry about making a 6-figure income in an unreliable industry, just so that we can rent here in Los Angeles. I think that's kind of where we're at. So we have enough money to buy a piece of property and build a house in Alaska, and that is where we're headed. So this is the start of that journey. Thank you. Bye.